How about fatherlessness? How does that affect us?
Father absence, I think, is the biggest problem we have in the nation.
Can a father's love break through prison walls?
Did you know that children that grow up without their father are more likely to have a diminished worldview of themselves?
Very difficult to be a courageous person unless you have your father in body and spirit behind you. It's very demoralizing.
We are experiencing a crisis of young men and women growing up in fatherless homes. This is not a problem in the future, it is already here. These are the statistics from the Census Bureau report. These are the stats for the US, and the stats for the UK are pretty much identical. 23% of families in the USA are fatherless homes. 1 in 4 American children live without a father in their home. 2/3 of youth suicides come from fatherless homes. In 2018, in the US, 15 million children were growing up without a father. Today, that figure is closer to 20 million. And the effect is clear. If you're a father watching this and you have chosen not to be in your kid's life, absent to your kids, and the message isn't sinking in, allow me to continue. 71% of young people addicted to drugs, 80% of all prison inmates, 90% of all homeless and runaway children, and 70% of teen pregnancies come from fatherless homes. Young men and women need their fathers. This epidemic in the West, primarily the UK, the USA, and Canada, is leaving so many guys out here desperate for guidance, missing the lessons they should have received from their fathers when growing up. Did you grow up without a father and feel like there are crucial life lessons you wish you had received when you were growing up? Do you feel like there's something holding you back from achieving your full potential? You may have even tried finding yourself a good male role model, or even teaching yourself the things you feel you missed out on. I have 2 very good close friends who grew up without their father. It broke my heart to see my friends chronically depressed. And even though they worked hard and did well in school, there was something just holding them back from achieving their full potential. And then in one moment, I recognized a very specific thought pattern that both my friends shared, a way of thinking that was holding them back. And when I pointed it out to them and discussed it with them, it was like a light bulb went off in their head. It became absolutely clear why they weren't achieving their full potential. To prevent the same thing from holding you back, I'm going to detail exactly what that thought pattern is and how they overcame it to be the successful guys they are today. In order for us to cover that, we first need to drill into why growing up without a father leads to the shocking statistics that we just touched on a minute ago. It ultimately comes down to guidance and discipline. I see so many young guys out here desperate for guidance, desperate to be shown the path. And in many cases, it leads back to one thing: the absence of a strong father figure in their life. A father is required to not only instill discipline, but also provide guidance. And without that guidance in your life, you can feel lost. Furthermore, boys raised without discipline end up with self-esteem issues, and they can be very easily led astray down into a life of crime or a life of poverty. Now it is sinking in the negative effects of fatherlessness on a society. And a question we have to ask ourselves is, how the hell did we get into this mess? Now, the reason I'm about to tell you, I don't see anybody else discussing this. In the West, in the UK, in the US, in Canada, governments are subsidizing fatherlessness. Check this. In the US, if a mother has a child out of wedlock and she is working, she receives $3,600 per year in tax benefit. If the mother has another child out of wedlock, the government gives her another $2,300 per year. Now that is earned income tax credit, and it is given if the mother is working. Fair enough. Now there is another tax credit a single mother can receive on top of that. Child tax credit, where the government pays up to $2,000 per child under 17. The numbers for the UK are even more crazy. A single mother receives up to £2,900 for the first child and $2,400 for each child after that. But get this, if the mother stays with her partner, she doesn't receive any of this money. She has to make do with her standard wage. But if she leaves the dad, if she keeps the father out of her kids' lives, she is suddenly eligible for thousands of pounds in tax credit from the government. Do you see why this is a problem? They've provided a financial incentive for single mothers to leave their husbands, leave the father of their kids, and try and go it alone. They are paying for the destruction of families. Now I totally get it. Sometimes a single mother cannot help it. Perhaps the father passed away, or perhaps he became abusive and she had to break up with him. It totally makes sense, and there are loads of cases where it's valid, I would not dispute that otherwise. But think of those instances where the parents are together and the relationship is a little bit rocky, and if they work hard to iron out their differences, they can overcome that bump and go on to have a happy family life. But suddenly the government comes along and says, oh, well, if you break up, if you go single, you can suddenly receive thousands of pounds in tax credit. Why the hell are they providing this incentive? A lady thinks, I could work to iron it out with my husband or my partner, or I could just break up with him and get this money. Now here's the crazy thing. None of these governments have a system in place to ensure the mother receiving this money or this tax benefit is actually spending it on the child wisely. Furthermore, the powers that be don't care that your future is statistically fucked when you don't grow up with a father. Now some of you are thinking, I know a single mother and she's a great mum to her kids. And that's absolutely true. My friends grew up with single mothers, some of the loveliest ladies I've ever met. I would go around there for dinners all the time and hang out with them, and then I'd play PlayStation with my mate. That's how it was growing up. I would never say that there are not good single mums out there, but there is now this incentive to be a single mum when you could stay together with the father. And that incentive should never be there. But a young man raised without his father is sadly missing a crucial step in his life. And here's why. A mother turns a baby into a boy, while a father turns a boy into a man. A mother takes you as a delicate little baby and nurtures you and raises you to be a little boy that can stand on your own 2 feet. And then it's the job of the father to take the boy and raise him up and teach him how to be a man and grow him to continue the father's legacy, to teach him the ways of the world and turn him into a warrior. That's how it is. That's how it always has been. Now, some of you might say, well, I was raised by a single mum and I'm doing just fine. And that may be true, but many men raised by single mums are not reaching their full potential. Why is this? It is the job of the mother to nurture and protect her kids. But it is not the biological imperative of a mother to toughen her kids up. It just isn't. When I was 21 years old, I'd tell my mother, I'm gonna go and train Muay Thai. I'm gonna go sparring with my friend. And even though I was a 21-year-old man and had already ventured out into the world and had already lived for a year in Australia, she'd still get all worried and she'd pull her face and she'd say, why are you doing that? Aren't you gonna get hurt? Aren't you worried about getting hit in the head for 5 rounds? I don't like that at all. I would get annoyed because I love the sport and it was ruining the fun a bit. And I'd say, stop being a Karen. And she'd say, what does that mean? Honestly, I didn't understand why she couldn't encourage my martial arts training. Then my mother recently told me a story and it all made sense. When I was 3 years old, we were in the high street in West London and she's pushing me along in the pram with my sister, and at one point she has to stop and she comes around to the front of the pram. She's adjusting something on my sister. I decide in my 3-year-old wisdom to jump out of the pram and run into the road, run into the traffic. I run between 2 cars and there's like cars passing by at high speed. My mother runs into the road, grabs me, takes me back to the pavement, clips me into the pram, sits down and proceeds to have a full-blown panic attack right there. For 15 minutes, she can't breathe. A stranger had to come along and console her, and only after those 15 minutes was she able to regain her composure and carry on with the day. But here's the thing, that panic attack comes from a place of love. She is deeply protective. Your mother is deeply protective. So it's not that she doesn't care. She will not encourage you to do the things that toughen you up, and don't expect her to either. A mother does not understand that you have a biological imperative to go and compete with other men, that you have testosterone, that going and training with your boys and training hard is a bonding experience, that you would want to go and play rugby or train Muay Thai and risk getting hit in the face for 5 rounds. And some mothers will even shame you for doing those things. She might say, I hate it when you go boxing. I hate it when you ride a motorbike. That is just her nature. Don't get annoyed at it. Just understand it and identify it. That is simply her biological imperative to keep you away from anything that could hurt you. So clearly understand that the job of a mother is to turn a baby into a boy. And most mothers do that job very, very well. But the second step of the equation is equally important. The role of the father to take you from boy to man. And many men out here are missing that step in life. They are missing that phase where your father teaches you how to shave or takes you out to do sports and so on. Many cultures have rites of passage where the elders of the tribe will take the boy and say, okay, you've got to go through this ceremony now. And once you've completed that ceremony, then you're ready to be a man. It might be a physical ceremony. It might be a spiritual ceremony. Once that boy goes through that process, that rite of passage, he experiences a huge psychological shift. Because no longer is he the barefoot boy running around. Now the elders have come along, put a hand on his shoulder and said, you're a man of the tribe now that you've completed this rite of passage. He feels ready to conquer the world. In fact, I find rites of passage so interesting, I'm doing a whole series of YouTube shorts on them. Sadly, in modern days, we've lost a lot of these rites of passage, so as a young man, you can get stuck in limbo wondering whether you've truly matured yet. And inevitably, your behavior and inner voice reflects that lack of maturity. For example, let's say you are working hard and you're going for a job promotion. And let's imagine you are already ready for that job promotion. But in your mind, you're thinking, oh, if I just work on this for another 6 months, if I just work on that, then I'll be ready, then I can go for the job promotion. You're left in a perpetual state of thinking, am I truly ready for this? Do I need permission to go for this goal first? I see it all the time, and it's a form of self-sabotage that I also experienced when I was a teenager. Since we have touched on the factors leading to this fatherlessness crisis, there's one important factor that we really shouldn't miss. Too many mothers understate the importance of fathers, and they believe they can get by just fine raising you as a single mother. Why does a mother underestimate the impact of her child's father not being around? Well, to get the answer to that, we need to rewind 10,000 years and understand the evolutionary biology behind it. 10,000 years ago, in tribal time, if a woman and a man had a child, and let's say the man wasn't in the kid's life, maybe he was killed by a rival tribe, or he went away, or he got some disease. Whatever it is, he's not there as the father, and she has to raise the kid by herself. Well, it wasn't a problem because that boy would be raised by his uncles and the other men in the tribe, and he would receive the same life lessons as the other boys, and he would turn out just fine. Now, coming back to modern day, we don't live in tribes anymore, but the evolutionary biology still pertains. Unfortunately, single mothers don't understand that there aren't other men out there who are ready to pick up the role of raising another man's child. There just isn't. So the education and the guidance that the boy receives is entirely feminine with zero masculine balance, and the boy grows up feeling ashamed for expressing his masculine self and ending up with some kind of feminine tendencies. You see them today. Now, I apologize if up to this point it's sounding bleak and negative. That's not my intention. And you might be asking, Adam, is there anything I can do about this? How can I overcome this so I don't become like those statistics? Fortunately, there is something you can do about it. There is action that you can take today to ensure that you don't fall into the statistics that we mentioned at the start of the video. Remember that thought pattern that I identified in my friends earlier in the video? The one that was holding them back and the one that they eventually overcame. It is this. They weren't giving themselves permission to be a man. They weren't giving themselves permission to go out and succeed. Somewhere in their mind, they were waiting for a man to come along, put his hand on their shoulder and say, okay son, you are a man now, you can make your own decisions, let nothing stop you. And that moment was never going to come. And when they saw that this thought pattern was the problem, and they processed it and understood it, they released this feeling that they were waiting on permission from somebody else. And you can do this too. It wasn't easy for them, and it took hard work and some tears and some reflection and acceptance that my dad isn't going to be in my life, but I don't care because I'm going to be one successful motherfucker anyway. And ever since they went through that psychological shift, they both went on to be more confident and successful. So if you grew up without a father, you need to understand this. You are more prepared than you think. Tell yourself you are ready. Tell yourself you already have what it takes. Tell yourself that you do not need anybody else's permission to go out and achieve your goals. Go out there and own your life. Go for that job promotion. Start working on that personal project. Say hi to the gorgeous girl on the bus. Set yourself an ambitious fitness goal and then put in the steps to achieve it. The power is in your hands. Many successful men have overcome the difficulty of growing up fatherless. Allow me to list a few of them for you here. Steve Jobs, Noel Dazell, Bradley Martin, Eddie Murphy, Albert Einstein, LeBron James, Richard Branson, Pharrell Williams, Jay-Z, Jim Carrey, Malcolm X, Michael Phelps, and many more inspiring men grew up without a father. Just because one man wouldn't or couldn't be in your life, don't let that stop you from achieving your dreams. Don't delay your own success. You are more prepared than you think.